Dallas, the morning began with a rush of traffic. Ringing phones and executives hurrying through the private terminal at Love Field. Victoria Hayes, the billionaire CEO of Hayes Aerospace, stood beside a sleek black SUV checking her watch. Her company had chartered a $55 million private jet for an important meeting in Denver. She had a presentation that could determine the future of a major aerospace contract. Her assistant approached. "Everything is ready." Miss Hayes. Victoria nodded. "Good. I don't want any delays." A few minutes later, Victoria entered the private terminal. Her eyes briefly moved toward the commercial gates nearby. That was where Daniel Reed was waiting. Daniel was a single father in his late 30s. He wore a simple gray jacket and carried a small backpack over one shoulder. Beside him stood his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, holding a stuffed rabbit Daniel had spent weeks saving for their trip. When his original flight became too expensive, he searched for another option and found two $110 seats. It wasn't luxurious, but it would get them to Denver. Lily looked toward the private jet outside the window. "Dad, is that a real airplane?" Daniel smiled. "Yes." "Can we ride that one?" He laughed. "Maybe when you become a billionaire." Lily giggled. Victoria overheard the conversation, but didn't pay much attention to her. Daniel was simply another passenger. Her assistant handed her a folder. "The Denver meeting starts at 2. Victoria checked her watch. "We'll be there early." She walked toward the jet. Meanwhile, Daniel helped Lily with her seatbelt. After they boarded the commercial flight, "Are you nervous a little?" "Don't worry, I'll be right here." The plane took off shortly afterward. For the first hour, everything went normally. Then the private jet encountered unexpected weather. The pilot informed Victoria that they needed to slow down and change their route. Victoria frowned. "How much longer?" "About 40 minutes. She looked at her watch. "That's unacceptable." Her assistant tried to reassure her. "We'll still make the meeting." On the commercial flight, Daniel was helping Lily with a puzzle when turbulence began. Lily grabbed his hand. "Dad." "I'm right here," Daniel smiled calmly. The turbulence passed later. The pilot announced they would be landing soon. When the plane touched down at Denver International Airport, Daniel checked the time they had arrived earlier than expected. He helped Lily collect their bags. "Come on, sweetheart." They walked through the terminal. At almost the same moment, Victoria's private jet landed. She stepped onto the airport tarmac, expecting to arrive ahead of everyone. But when she entered the terminal, she suddenly stopped. Daniel was standing near the arrivals area, helping Lily put on her jacket. Victoria stared. "That can't be." Her assistant looked confused. "What's wrong?" Victoria pointed toward Daniel. "He was on the commercial flight." The assistant checked the arrival information. "Yes." Victoria looked toward the clock. Daniel had arrived before her. She couldn't believe it. A $110 commercial ticket had brought a single father to the same destination faster than her $55 million private jet. Daniel noticed Victoria staring and politely nodded. "Good morning." Victoria nodded back. "Good morning." She had no idea that this strange coincidence was about to lead to a business meeting that would completely change both their lives. Daniel was about to leave the terminal with Lily when his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. It was an email from a former colleague, asking if he could attend a last-minute aerospace technology meeting in Denver. Daniel hesitated. He had originally planned to spend the day with Lily, but the opportunity was too important to ignore. Victoria noticed him checking his phone. "Are you Daniel Reed?" Daniel looked up. "Yes. I've heard your name before." He seemed surprised. "From where?" "Hayes Aerospace." Daniel smiled politely. "I worked with one of your engineering teams 2 years ago." Victoria's expression changed. "You were the systems engineer who solved the propulsion efficiency problem." Daniel nodded. "That was me." Her assistant immediately looked at her. "That's the engineer we were trying to contact." Victoria stared at Daniel. The man she had barely noticed at the airport suddenly seemed much more important. "We're having a meeting in 20 minutes. She said, would you be willing to join us?" Daniel looked at Lily. "I have my daughter with me." Victoria expected him to decline. Instead, she said, "Bring her." Daniel looked surprised. "Seriously?" Seriously, they arrived at the conference center together. Victoria's executives were already waiting when Daniel entered. Several people recognized him. One executive whispered, "That's Reed." Victoria took her seat. "We're facing a problem with the new aerospace system." Daniel studied the presentation. After several minutes, he asked for the technical data. The executives exchanged glances. One of them said, "We've been analyzing it for 3 weeks." Daniel looked at the numbers. There are two problems, Victoria leaned forward. What problems? Daniel pointed toward the screen. Your energy distribution model is compensating for the wrong variable, and your backup system is creating unnecessary resistance. The room became silent. An engineer quickly checked the calculations. Daniel was right. Victoria stared at the screen. How long would it take to fix? Daniel shrugged. If the original design files are available, maybe 2 days. Everyone looked stunned. The team had spent weeks struggling with the issue. Daniel solved the core problem in less than 30 minutes. Victoria smiled. Would you consider working for us? Daniel hesitated. I'd consider the right opportunity. What would make it right? Daniel looked toward Lily, who was quietly coloring at the end of the conference table. Flexibility. Victoria understood immediately. My daughter comes first. Victoria nodded. Then we'll build the position around that. Daniel smiled later that afternoon. Victoria walked with him through the airport. I owe you an apology. Daniel looked confused. For what I judged you this morning. You didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Daniel smiled. It's okay. Victoria shook her head no. It matters. She looked toward the private jet visible through the terminal windows. I thought the expensive option would always be better. Daniel laughed. Sometimes the $110 ticket gets you there first. Victoria smiled, apparently. Daniel accepted the position several weeks later, becoming a senior engineering director with a flexible schedule and excellent benefits. The company soon benefited from his expertise. Projects moved faster, costs dropped. Major clients renewed contracts, but Victoria remembered something more important than the business results. Her private jet had cost millions to operate, yet it hadn't guaranteed the fastest arrival. Daniel's inexpensive, commercial flight had brought him to the same destination and introduced her to the person who would eventually transform her company as Daniel left the airport with Lily. She looked at him. Dad. Did you get a new job? Daniel smiled. I think I did. Is it a good one? He looked back at Victoria, who was standing near the terminal entrance. I think it's exactly where we're supposed to be. And Victoria finally understood that sometimes the most valuable opportunities don't arrive in luxury. Sometimes they arrive on a $110 ticket.